Hi, 8th grade. Welcome back. This is topic 1, lesson 5. We are going to do some solving equations with perfect squares and perfect cubes. So let's start off with the perfect squares. Example number 1, Darius. Darius is restoring a square tabletop. He wants to finish the outside edgings with a piece of decorative molding. What total length of molding will Darius need? So he wants to cover the whole outside. We know the area is 25 feet. So again, to go over the area formula, area equals length times width. But we know it's a square, so both the length and the width are the same. So we can say side times side, which gets us to this equation, area equals side squared. So we know the area is 25. In order to unsquare, we must take the square root. And we know 5 times 5 is 25, so the square root of 25 is 5. Since the length is positive, each side length of the tabletop is 5 feet. So this is 5, this is 5, 5, 5. Okay, he wants to put a piece of molding on each side, so we have to do 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, which will give us 20. So he needs 20 feet of decorative molding. Let's try it. What is the side length S of the square shown below? So again, S, S. The area is 100. So 100 is equal to side squared. We must take the square root of 100. What times what equals 100? Well, 10 times 10 equals 100. Remember, we're looking for the two numbers that are exactly the same. So 10 is equal to the side length. Each side measures 10 meters. Why are there two possible solutions to the equation s squared equals 100? Explain why only one of these solutions is valid in this situation. So they're talking about why is there this plus or minus here? The square root of 100 could equal positive 10 because 10 times 10 equals 100. But there's another option. The square root of 100 could also equal negative 10 because negative 10 times negative 10 also equals 100 because a negative times a negative equals a positive. Okay? But only one of the solutions is valid because you can't have a negative side length. Measurements cannot be negative. So we know the answer of negative 10 doesn't make sense in the context of the problem. Example number 2, we are going to talk about perfect cubes. Kyle has a large cube-shaped terrarium for his iguana. He wants to cover the opening with a square screen. What are the dimensions S for the screen? So we know the volume is 343 feet. To review, volume equals length times width times height, but it's a cube, so we know length, width, and height are the same. So we can say side times side times side. So volume equals side cubed. We need to figure out what times what equals 343. Trial and error gives us 7. So each edge of the terrarium is 7 feet. So the dimensions of the screen are 7 feet by 7 feet. Try it. I want you to pause the video and try this one on your own. Press play when you're ready to go over it. Solve x to the third equals 64. We need to figure out what times what equals 34. Remember, we need 3 spaces because it's x to the third power. We need to find the cube root. So trial and error, we find out that 4 times 4 times 4 equals 64. So x must equal 4. Example number 3. Solving equations involving imperfect squares and cubes. So we've done perfect squares and perfect cubes so far because they give us integers as answers. But imperfect squares and cubes are going to give us those irrational numbers. So here, solve for x. X squared equals 50. Well, we know 50 is not a perfect square. There are not two integers that multiply to get to 50. Yes, there's 10 and 5, but those are not the same number. We're looking for the same number. So the way you answer this question is you just leave it written as the positive and negative square root of 50. To double check, you could always put the square root of 50 in your calculator. Put it in mine right now. The square root of 50 is equal to 7.071067, on and on. It is an irrational number. So instead of writing all those crazy numbers, we can just leave it as the positive and negative value of the square root of 50. Next, x squared equals 37. X cubed equals 37. So we take the cube root, but 37 is not a perfect cube. There are not three of the same numbers that multiply to 37. So just like before, we leave it written as the cube root of 37. Try the next one on your own. Pause the video. Press play when you're ready to go over it. A cubed equals 11. We need to take the cube root to get a by itself. So we take the cube root of 11. There is no number that multiplies to itself 3 times to get us to 11. So I know a is equal to the cube root of 11. That is the simplest way to leave it. C squared equals 27. So it's squared. We want to take the square root. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. 27 is not a perfect square. So we just leave it as C equals. Now remember, whenever you take the square root, it is the positive and negative square root of 27. Hope you enjoyed this lesson.